Happy draft night, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live right here on Giants.com and the Giants mobile app. John Schmeelk, Shaun O'Hara, Paul Dottino with you. We know who the newest member of the New York Giants is. With the 24th overall pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Deonte Banks, cornerback out of Maryland. They were selecting 25th. They trade a 5th-round pick and a 7th-round pick, 160 and 240 overall, to move up one spot with the Jacksonville Jaguars to get the player they were targeting, Deonte Banks, a cornerback out of Maryland. Shaun, let's start with you. Your thoughts on the Giants' decision to go cornerback here in Deonte Banks in round number 1.
Yeah, well, the Giants certainly saw somebody that they liked and jumped up. They didn't want Jacksonville to try to pluck the guy that they had their eye on. Of course, a couple of receivers went right before that, but Deonte Banks, when you just kind of look at his style of play, one guy that is extremely excited is Wink Martindale, the defensive coordinator. He gets a very physical corner, a guy that likes to play outside, likes to play press coverage. Very physical with his hands. He loves to kind of mug receivers off of that press coverage. And, you know, I think when you look at what he brings to the run game, this guy is not scared to come downhill and tackle guys. So He's a very physical corner. This guy's yoked up. When you look at him, you know, he's one of those guys that you want to come off the bus first. And, you know, he looks great in the uniform, got the muscles popping everywhere, jumped out of the roof at Lucas Oil Stadium at the Combine, 42-inch vertical, which was the most out of any DB at this year's Combine. So a really physically talented corner, really aggressive. I think he's really going to fit into this style defense. He's going to be a great addition to this corner and to this secondary, opposite of Adoree Jackson as one of the starting corners for the Giants.
Yeah, Paul, tremendous scheme fit. At Maryland, they played almost solely press, bump and run coverage. He had good tape. Then he shows up at the Combine in Indianapolis, weighs in 6 foot, 197 pounds, 31-inch arms, ran a 4.35 40-yard dash, a ridiculous 1.45 10-yard split, jumped 42 inches, jumped 11 feet in the broad jump. He was the perfect physical specimen to play this type of defense that the Giants want to run in the secondary.
John, when we were at the Combine, I had picked him as my favorite for the Giants at 25, and when he ran 4.35, you said to me, you're not getting him there. He's not going to make it. For a guy to be 6'2" and 200 pounds, to have that kind of speed and that kind of bump and coverage ability and press coverage. By the way, played 17% of his snaps at Maryland in the slot. Not that they'll use him there, because he'll be a boundary corner for the Giants, but he has had some experience to move inside. This is just a player that Wink Martindale is absolutely going to be ecstatic about. You heard Shaun say it. You saw if you were watching NFL Network. Wink just popped up and started giving hugs to everybody. They're going to use him right away. He's an immediate impact player, and with Adoree Jackson in the last year of his contract, and opposite boundary corners like Williams, like Robinson, and like Flott, all coming off of injury-plagued seasons, the Giants were really in a position to go out and get somebody like this.
We are going to open up the phones and get your reaction at 201-939-4513. So get on the phones, 201-939-4513. And Shaun, Paul just mentioned it there. This was a need pick for the Giants, too. You never want to pick a player solely based on need, because that's going to get you into trouble. He certainly had the talent and the value for this selection, but it's also a spot where the Giants really didn't know who their other starting outside cornerback was next to Adoree Jackson. They had a lot of people that did it last year in different situations, but none with the traits or pedigree of Banks.
Yeah, I think when you look at how well this Giants secondary played last year, and it seemed like every single week they were rotating somebody due to health or due to matchups into the starting lineup. So you're right. It checks all the boxes. You know, it fits the need. I think they got it at great value. And I also think it checks another box, the mentality of Deonte Banks, the type of style that he plays physically. We just alluded to that. But I think the kind of culture and the mentality that he brings to the game and he brings to the Giants is going to fit right with what Adoree Jackson is doing on the other side. It fits right with what Wink Martindale expects out of his corners and out of that back half of the defense. So a very physical corner. I think, look, there's some things that he's got to work on. He had 8 penalties last year. Obviously, he gets a little bit handsy, gets a little grabby, had some holds. So I think that's something that he's going to clean up a little bit and he can learn from. But I think when you look at what he's bringing, the feistiness, the physical attitude, He's got some dog in him. And I think the nice thing for him, too, is, look, he chose to go to Maryland because he's from Maryland. Like, he's a homegrown kid. He wanted to stay close. I'm sure he had his eye on the Baltimore Ravens, but the fact that he just gets to come right up 95, come up the Turnpike, I'm sure he's already got an easy pass. But, this is close to home. I think this is going to be a great fit for him. And based on the entourage that we saw with him on draft day, he's going to need a lot of tickets, too.
Now, a few things I want to add to this, John and Shaun. First of all, Jerome Henderson, the Giants' defensive backs coach, was one of the guys who worked him out at his pro day. And so the Giants had a lot of information on Banks when he came up into the draft process. I thought that was very critical. This is a very good young man who checks a lot of boxes character-wise. We know the Giants like good character guys. And let's not forget, okay, we've been talking about this a lot on BBKL, John and I particularly, that the Giants would probably not use all 10 of their draft picks because the team is in such good shape that they would want to try to make a move. So what do? Give credit to Joe Schoen. He moves up one spot saying, look, that's the guy we really want badly. We go and get him by moving up a spot, and we only give up a 5 and a 7, which now leaves the Giants with 8 picks, which is a very manageable number for them. And their late picks that they gave up, not a whole lot, guys who are not necessarily going to make an impact on this team anyway, and they go and get the guy that they had targeted all along. So I really think you got to give a big thumbs up to Joe Schoen.
No question about it. The Giants had 6 selections in the 5th, 6th, and 7th rounds, 2 in the 5th, 1 in the 6th, 3 in the 7th. So they still have 1 in the 5th, 1 in the 6th, 2 in the 7th. So they still have a good selection of picks here on the 3rd day of the NFL draft. Again, just to move up that one spot, but to get the guy that you want, certainly worth the price of admission, given the guys you're selecting late on day 3 are oftentimes projects, guys that maybe might not even make the 53-man roster when all is said and done at the end of training camp. All right, let's get to the phones, 201-939-4513. I want to go through the calls here rapid fire, guys. So give me one quick question or one quick comment. We'll respond, and then we'll get to the next caller. We only have a half an hour here to take your calls. So let's get on the phone, and let's be tight. Let's start with Coach Marvin in Delaware. He'll lead us off today. Coach Marvin, what's going on?
How you doing, John? Paul?
Hey, Coach.
Hey, real quick, I just wanted to say I talked to John the other day, and Banks was one of my guys out of the 5 that I picked. They got him. Physical guy. 2 good things out of a corner. He's physical, and he can run.
Yeah.
Playing in the NFL.
And he's got length.
Yes, he got length. Good pick for the Giants.
All right, thank you, Coach Marvin. And look, go ahead, Coach. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Finish up.
I'm hoping that my other pick, John, was the 2 centers. Hopefully, in the 2nd round, we can get one of them or one of those the wide receiver, the one that Paul likes.
Cedric Tillman out of Tennessee.
The one out of Tennessee. Hopefully, they're there, and or we have to move up to get them. I guess I don't know, but those are my next 3 I like.
All right, Coach. Appreciate the call. Thanks for calling in, bud.
Right.
Catch up with us over the weekend. Of course, we're going to be live, too, by the way, on day 2 of the draft after the Giants selections in rounds 2 and 3. And then we'll be live on Saturday after round 5 as well. Shaun, you have any comments on that?
Well, yeah, I like the fact that we got the corner in the 1st round, and then, Coach was asking about the centers. There are a lot of good centers in this draft, and I think you can get one in the 2nd round or even the 3rd round.
Yeah.
Sure. It's definitely some great value right there for the Giants.
And same for wide receiver. It's not great at the top of the draft, and I think we saw that based on the fact the first 19 picks saw 0 wide receivers taken in this draft. You could find guys that can play for you right away in rounds 2 or 3. So still a lot of good players on the board for the Giants as they move ahead into day 2 of the draft. Back to the phones, 201-939-4513. Rodney's up in Massachusetts. He's up next on Big Blue Kickoff Live the night of the draft. What's up, Rodney?
John, what's going on? What's going on, Shaun?
We're good.
Hi.
I'm gonna be a Debbie Downer. I'm not gonna lie. I hate it, man. I like the player. I think he's a good player, fits the scheme, etc. I'm just saying, all those picks to move up one spot with receivers on the board. Paul was making a few shows. He did the logistics of what it would take to move up and down, and he explained. Paul explained how much it would cost to move up 5 picks. You're at 25. I would JSN. And the thing is, I'm not following the rules you guys explain to us fans. Don't fall in love with a player. I admit it. That was the guy.
No, but Rodney, here's the thing. Maybe the Giants made that offer, but the Seahawks wanted the player.
How do you know?
The Giants could have made the type of offer you're talking about to the Seahawks. Maybe they love JSN just as much as you do, and they said, no, we're going to stay put and take the player.
Well, John and Sean, to go back to what the
Thank you,
caller
Rodney.
was
Appreciate
talking
the call.
about, and thank you, yeah. I think it would have taken probably a third-round pick in order to move up maybe 4 spots in the first round, which would have been significantly more than a 5 and a 7. If you look at the draft chart, they gave up only approximately, I think, 27 points and moved up 1 spot, which is approximately 20 points.
Right.
So it was a pretty fair value. They may have just given up a tad, a couple of cents more than they had to by giving up the 7. But my goodness, you can't complain.
Yeah, and Sean, we were sitting there, and we're like, all right, if you're thinking about wide receiver or corner, there are 5 guys here left, and all of a sudden, you get 4 straight picks, Sean, of wide receivers. Jackson Smith and Jigba goes to the Seahawks. Quentin Johnston goes to the Chargers. The Ravens take Zay Flowers. The Vikings take Jordan Addison. So what was a deep wide receiver group you could choose from got liquidated very, very quickly.
It sure did.
Yeah, 4 in a row right there. And then when you look at who's left, it's like, all right, you know what? We didn't have this high of a grade on a receiver, so now are we going to reach just because we really want to add to the offense? I appreciate Rodney's perspective on it, and here's what I'll say to Rodney directly. Look, what do we need to do, right? The Giants need to find a way to win the division. How do you do that? You've got to stop Philly. You've got to beat the Birds. Well, guess what? They've got some guys that could flat out fly on offense.
Yeah.
So, let's just focus in on how do we beat the Eagles. Okay, we realize they just got Jalen Carter, so we got to find some boys to block that defensive front. But for the Giants defensively, you got to slow down A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. You got to find a way to slow down Jalen Hurts and this high-powered offense. And I think you get a guy like Deonte Banks, guess what? He's going to line up first in line. Let me shadow AJ. Let me go with him. He's got that kind of mentality. And I think that's where you're looking at defensively. All right, how do we find a way to keep up and slow down the Eagles? I think Deonte Banks was a big part of that.
Interesting. Absolutely 100%. By the way, the pick after the Giants, the Bills traded up. They selected Dalton Kincaid. The Cowboys are on the clock. They're about to make their selection
Which means
here.
Mayer is still there for them.
Michael Mayer could go to the Cowboys. I wonder if they would have wanted Kincaid, though. I don't know which one of those 2 tight ends they liked more. 201-939-4513. Let's go back to the phones and go to Abdul in Minneapolis. He's up next. Hi, Abdul.
Hey guys, first thing, I hate the Eagles. I hate them.
Word. Amen.
And by the way, Abdul, it figures Jalen Carter drops to them at 9. Because, because
Exactly.
of course he does.
Sean, do you want to second that notion, by the way?
Amen. Cry, Eagles, cry.
Right. So I'm surprised they didn't go Joey Porter. The Banks they're right there, But I thought Joey Porter might have been the pick. But I for the people who wanted the receivers and stuff, I think Banks is a better football player than the 4 receivers that went before him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my thing. The next round, I hope we get my boy from Minnesota. I watched him dominate the Big Ten for the past 3 years, live, and I think he'll get a good receiver in the 3rd round. Hopefully, the young man from UNC will be there in the 3rd round. So hopefully, center, 2nd round, receiver, and the 3rd round. But I'm very happy with our pick. And I said, but I'm surprised we didn't go Joey Porter Jr.
All right.
That's it, guys.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate the call, Abdul. We're going to say goodbye to Sean here for a second. He'll rejoin us towards the end of the show, we hope. Sean, we will talk to you in a little bit. Paul, let's go back to the phones at 201-939-4513. But first, I want to remind everybody to go subscribe to our other podcast that follow the draft. You have draft season. We'll have a reaction to round 1 coming up probably either early tomorrow morning or really late tonight. Tony Pauline and I will react to the entire first round of the draft. Then the Giants Huddle podcast. We have a bunch of great draft content on there. We'll have a episode at the end of the week. Go find that on the Giants mobile app, giants.com/podcast, or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. If you're an Apple Podcast, you like our podcast, please leave a 5-star positive review if you can. Back to the phone. Shane in Pennsylvania is up next. Hi, Shane.
Hey, how's it going?
What's
Hi.
up?
I just wanted to pin on a couple things that were probably already said regarding the secondary, but I mean, adding Deonte Banks to what we have already, like bringing in Amani Oruwariye, we have Adoree Jackson, we brought in Bobby McCain, Xavier McKinney. I mean, the back end is looking pretty nice for the Giants defense right now.
Yeah, and they have some versatile pieces. I think it was important to add another outside guy you can rely on to cover on the perimeter, which is exactly what they did with Banks. A guy like Oruwariye was the free agent addition from the Lions. He's a guy with traits, but he did lose his starting job in Detroit after a couple years. So it's not someone you can necessarily say, all right, we're just going to plug and play him and let him go. You want competition, and now you have a young player, a first-round pick. We talked about the elite traits that with Jerome Henderson, which is somebody Wink Martindale, the Giants defensive coordinator, has raved about as a defensive backs coach. He's going to get his hands on this kid with all this talent, and you trust that he's going to be able to teach him to become a really good NFL cornerback. Because remember, that is a big jump. Going from college corner to NFL corner is a huge jump, and it sometimes can take a year or two for these players to adjust to life in the NFL, playing against top receivers every week. But you cannot pick a better person than Jerome Henderson to coach him up to get him ready.
One of the best in the business. And caller, let's not forget, we've been through seasons here with the Giants. We've seen firsthand, they've sometimes had to go to their 6th and 7th and 8th cornerbacks on the depth chart, literally pulling guys up off the practice squad to finish out the season, because that has been one of the snake-bitten, injury-riddled positions on this roster over the course of the last 5 or 6 years.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And just bringing in more depth, more pieces to that secondary, especially trying to guard guys like A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, CeeDee Lamb, Terry McLaurin over on the Commanders. It's just a lot of talent in the division and around the league that you just got to keep adding pieces to that secondary. Like you said, like injury-ridden after player, like just getting out. And I just think it's a solid pick. We could have gone anywhere in pick 24 right there. Joey Porter, we could have gone with any of those corners that were still on the board. I think it's a solid pick. I think we really need to address interior offensive line, though, coming up here into the 2nd or 3rd round maybe. You know, the Eagles just brought in
we know. Jalen Carter. We know.
Yeah.
Thanks for the call.
I was livid when I saw that they got him there at 10.
Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you, Shane. Appreciate it, man. Good stuff. Cowboys, by the way, took Mozzie Smith, the defensive tackle from Michigan.
Little bit high, I think, John.
Yeah, they needed a run stopper, but for me, that's a little rich. 201-939-4513. Let's go back to the phones. Tom in Stratford's up next. Hi, Tom.
Hi, guys. How you doing tonight?
Hi. We're doing well.
Listen, how would you compare Joey Porter to Banks? I mean, I like Banks. He's a good player. You were talking about length. It looks here that Porter's like 3 inches taller.
Yeah, Porter's a little bit longer. I think he's probably a little bit more physical at the line of scrimmage. I think Banks is faster. He's a more fluid mover. And I think he's better mirroring and changing direction in the secondary. I think he's overall a better athlete than Porter, at least in my opinion.
I concur. I would also say Porter had troubles with inconsistencies at Penn State. And also, quite frankly, he was in position a lot and then did not finish plays as well as coaches would like. I mean, that can be very frustrating.
How do their hands compare?
In terms of picking the ball off, in terms of interceptions? Yeah. That's a good question. Deonte Banks does not have a lot of interceptions.
He does not.
He had one as a senior. He had one as a freshman in 2019. So remember, though, he played a lot of press man. So when you play press man, you don't get a ton of picks.
And you also don't get thrown out a lot either.
And by the way, Joey Porter just had one in his junior year in 2021. He also played a lot of press man with his back to the quarterback. So neither guy was necessarily a ball hawk, but I think that's more because of the scheme than anything else.
Well, and also because they might be playing running teams, but I mean,
and you don't know how many times people threw away from either guy
Correct.
during the course of their college careers.
And they don't keep track of how many drops they may have,
dropped interceptions. I'm sure somebody might have that somewhere.
I can check that on PFF
All right,
probably.
Thank you for the call. Let me give you a quick history number while you look up those stats, John. For people who love Giants history, and we know this team is getting close now to its 100th anniversary. This is the 8th time in Giants franchise history they've used a first-round draft pick on a cornerback. The first time since DeAndre Baker back in 2019, and it is the 7th highest selection that the Giants have used on a cornerback at number 24 in the draft. Just a little history lesson I thought I might throw out there for you, John.
I will check those numbers as we go to our next caller and go to Tim in Charleston. He's up next. Tim, what's going on?
Hey, guys, I can just say I am over the moon, even though I can't see it here on this rainy night in Charleston. And first, I want to thank the Washington Commanders for reaching and picking Emmanuel Forbes early. and adding a name that I thought might fall to us, and got a cornerback out earlier that I didn't really want. And then after that, I just kept doing the math. I'm like, 7 picks, 7. I knew Gonzalez, and then I kept picking Gonzalez to go to this team and that team and the other team, and I was shocked that he didn't go sooner, and finally he went, and then I started saying, okay, 2 corners left, 7 picks left, 2 corners left, 5 picks left, 2
I
corners
get you.
left, 3 picks left.
Tim,
And
let me
when-
tell you, you weren't the only one doing that.
Yeah, I know.
I was going out of my mind.
And by the way, I just looked it up. Both Porter and Deonte Banks, according to Pro Football Focus, each had only 1 dropped interception during their relative career. So equal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And-
I know
and
what
then-
you're talking about, because you're right. Forbes never should have gone that high in my estimation. Now, John's right. He's got terrific skills.
They picked him over Christian Gonzalez.
Terrific skills, but wiry
Yeah,
for
right.
me. And I thought he was possibly a high second rounder. I wasn't even sure he'd make it into the first round. So that helped the Giants. And then there were a number of other picks that were just like, we kept looking, and we're talking in the lunchroom as we're sitting there, and we're saying, let's see. And then boom. Boom, boom. The wide receivers in the corners kept dropping and dropping and dropping. And then there was a run on receivers, and it really made Banks look like he was going to fall to 25. And, man, was I sweating it out.
And, yeah, when pick 23 came and they didn't pick a corner, I texted like 5 of my friends and, like, in all caps, we're getting a corner. You know, so
I
thank you,
drove
guys.
John so crazy in the studio, he wanted to strangle me.
Thank you, Tim.
He
Appreciate
wanted to
the
strangle
call.
me. He really did.
Yes.
One last thing.
Mhm.
Tomorrow, Paul, I'm all with you. I think we got to trade up a little, and I want Cedric Tillman, and we can get a center later. Get Cedric Tillman. If you got to trade up 5 or 10 picks to get him,
Yeah.
give up, a little capital next year. Maybe flip a 4.
I'd be fine with that.
A 4 for a 5 or something like that. I could do that. All right, guys. Thank you, man.
All right, Tim.
Great
Thanks
day.
for calling in. Good stuff. 201-939-4513. Join Beth Dable and Mary Shane for Sleep Out Women Unite on Thursday, May 4th to benefit Covenant House, New Jersey. Women will join in solidarity and sleep on the field at MetLife Stadium to support youth overcoming homelessness and survivors of human trafficking. For more information, visit sleepout.org. Back to the phones. Let's say what's up to Big George in Flemington. What's going on, Big George?
Gentlemen, good afternoon. Good
Hello.
evening. I want to know where the last guy lived, because he said he couldn't watch it because of a rainy night. So he really has to be somewhere in like the Adirondacks or something.
He's in Charleston,
You know,
actually.
watch it on TV.
He's in Charleston, South Carolina.
Maybe he needs to put the rabbit ears out the window. I have no problem with the pick. I think the pick is great. I'm glad they didn't reach on the wide receiver scene, where they already have enough wide receivers right now. I know a young guy would be great, bringing him in, but I mean, they have all these other guys, and especially Waller, who can play at probably a wide receiver position, and you can still put in Bellinger as the tight end to catch. Where I'm a little confused, though, is I wonder why they didn't go linebacker. You think that we have enough there?
Well, what did you want, an edge linebacker, or did you want an interior linebacker?
Well,
Now,
no,
the Giants have numbers at both spots. They may
Yeah,
have
no
some
one's
questions in
still
terms of durability or in terms of overall resume and production, but they've got numbers in terms of bodies, John.
And the other thing the one thing we also don't know, Big George, is does Wink Martindale want to play 2 linebackers on 3 downs? He might
Right.
want to have that safety, much like last year, be that almost second linebacker in passing situations. And if that's the case, you probably don't want to use a high draft pick on a 1 or 2 down player.
The sub package adds to the versatility component that Wink wants to use.
Right.
Right. I see your point. I'm always just curious because, again, we're fans. We don't know as much as you guys because you're the insiders and stuff.
Yeah.
And you see it all the time. I'm really always just curious of why. And you know what? Probably the whole fan base counted each pick as it was going because I know I was.
Appreciate the call.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, I hope your families are safe and healthy during this situation. And, again, keep smiling because it only can get better.
Thank you. Same
Thank
to
you.
you.
Appreciate the call. Yeah, nothing to be unhappy about tonight, that's for sure. 201-939-4513. We're going to welcome back in Shaun O'Hara here. Shaun, we've been talking about the Giants pick. We're going to go to another call here and say what's up to Samir down in Atlanta. Samir, what's going on?
Hey guys, good evening.
Hi.
Great draft so far.
John, you got your guy. Banks was someone that you guys talked about a lot. So
We lost the call.
Samir, did we lose you?
Hello?
oh no, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got
Can
you.
guys hear me?
We got you.
All right, great. So what's been interesting so far is just how far the mocks have been. The mocks have been all over the place in terms of what was happening in the mocks versus what actually happened realistically, right? And it was just interesting to see how far off the mocks were versus reality.
That's why they're called mocks.
Yeah, and Samir, thanks for the call. And Shaun, it was something we were talking about while we were watching this draft, and it kind of, started with Devon Witherspoon going to Seattle. He does not fit the usual Seahawk, prototype for a cornerback. And then Jahmyr Gibbs to the Lions inside the top 15. We all knew, Shaun, this was going to be an unpredictable draft, and it has certainly met expectations in that way.
Yeah, and I think the Eagles really kind of shocked everybody by trading up to get Jalen Carter. You mentioned Seattle. A lot of people thought that they were going to take Jalen Carter, that there was no way Pete Carroll was going to let him, get by them. And so, once the Eagles moved up, took Jalen Carter, then I felt like, Chicago, I did not expect Darnell Wright to go that high. I didn't expect him to go before Skoronski and before Broderick Jones. So those are a couple of surprises right there. How about the fact that there were 4 tackles taken in the first 14 picks in this draft? And
by the way, Shaun, real quick, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but the Jaguars just took the 6th tackle off the board, Anton Harrison, so another tackle gone.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect that many tackles to go in the first round, let alone 4 in the first 14.
Come on,
so,
Shaun, you love the trenches.
Yeah, look, it's a premium position. Look, you take quarterback out of it, it's like, all right, do you have tackles? Can you protect your quarterback? And then you need corners and receivers. So, I think those are some pretty big surprises. Detroit with Jack Campbell, I think that was a little bit surprising. But the fact that the receivers didn't go until so late, and then all of a sudden, boom, at 20, it was like the floodgates opened up, for them, 4 of them to go right in a row. I tell you, I think the Giants, they had their eye on Deonte Banks. It was a guy that they had put a lot of time in, spent a lot of time investigating what kind of guy is he, what kind of player is he. They were very thorough in that, and I just had a chance to talk to him, and he kind of had a feeling that the Giants were hot on the trail, and he kind of knew that this could happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, according to reports, he was one of the 30 visits to the facility as well. So the Giants certainly did have interest in the player. We'll get back to the calls in a second. Just want to update the draft board. Bengals just selected Miles Murphy, the edge rusher out of Clemson. So he's off the board. I'll just throw out some outliers for me, guys, that are still there that I think a lot of people expected to be first-round picks. Nolan Smith, the linebacker / edge player from Georgia, still available. Joey Porter Jr., the cornerback from Penn State, still out there. Mm-hmm. Brian Branch, the safety corner from Alabama. Michael Mayer, the tight end from Notre Dame, and Will Levis, the quarterback from Kentucky, all still available and on the board. 201-939-4513. Hey, Giant fans, take your fandom to the next level with a season ticket membership. Stay connected to the club all year round, not just on game days. Memberships are now available for the 2023 season. To learn more about all the exclusive member benefits, visit giants.com/tickets. Limited inventory is available. Mike's in Atlanta. We stick in the South. Mike, what's up?
Hey, guys, how are you?
We're good.
I'm loving the way the draft broke tonight. It broke perfect for the Giants, but now I think it's time for Joe Schoen to take care of business. And that business is calling the Miami Dolphins tonight and offering them Barkley and Jackson in a trade. And I'm going to tell you why.
Wait, Barkley and Adoree Jackson?
Yes, and I'm going to tell you why.
You've been partying a little too hard tonight,
no,
I think.
Paul, listen, this is about business. It's not about the heartstrings. If those 2 players are not in the Giants' plan for 2024, it makes business sense to move them now while the Dolphins were looking for both a running back and a cornerback in this draft and are built to win now. They need to compete with the Jets, the Bills, and the Patriots. If the Giants have no plans for these guys in 2024, Joe Schoen needs to be picking up the phone, moving these guys overnight for the Dolphins draft picks, a 2 and a 3. They're not going to get top picks next year. But listen to me. Listen.
No. I'm going to give you a fact. Do you know how much cap space the Dolphins have right now?
The Giants can clear $18 million in cap space.
No.
Do you know
what
how
does
many
Miami
cap space
have?
the Dolphins have?
Do you know what they can take on?
They have
Yes, I do. Because I already
they have
researched it.
$2.8 million of cap space.
They clear up $15 million on June 1st when they cut the cornerback.
All right.
He's a June 1st designation. $15 million comes off the cap.
Let me say this to you. If you're the Miami Dolphins, there are supposed make-it running backs in a very, very strong way in the 4th round that are going to be effective rotational, if not starters, in this league. Why would you trade for a Barkley when you can get a guy who may be starting in the 4th round? Cornerback-wise, there are supposedly 3 rounds of corners in this draft who have the ability to give you significant snaps. Why would you trade for either one of these veterans making big money and having to give up picks when you can get cheaper guys, younger guys, healthy guys? That makes absolutely 0 sense. And then on top of it, if you're the Giants and you're trying to win something now
you took the words out of my mouth.
as you are trying to build on a playoff season and take your team to the next level and try to attack the Eagles, you're gonna take Barkley and Adoree Jackson out of this equation when we just told you that depth at corner was a bit of an issue, and now you want to take Adoree Jackson off this team? My friend, I invite you to party the rest of the night. Enjoy yourself.
I understand planning for the future, but I think that's a little extreme.
Absolutely.
Sean?
Yeah. When he said time to get down to business, like it's not good business to trade away your best player, right? Like Saquon Barkley is our best offensive player right now for the Giants, and I disagree with the statement that the Giants don't want Saquon Barkley long term. They absolutely do. Look, they tagged him to buy themselves more time to get him under a long term deal. Look at the Lamar Jackson situation. Hours before the draft, he signs a long term deal. Look. For weeks, everybody was talking about, well, Lamar's on his way out of Baltimore. Those two, you know what? Like, that's not going to work. All right, he's clearly playing for somebody else. They're done with him. Everybody had severed that relationship. And then here we are hours before the draft. Oh, everything's fine. Lamar's like, yep, hey, Ravens flock, here we go. So, look, there's business side of it. Saquon gets all that. But, number one, the Giants aren't getting rid of Saquon Barkley. They want him for the long haul. It's just they're just got to work through some things and massage and manipulate the contract a little bit. But the other thing is trading him to the Miami Dolphins. Like the Dolphins, they want multiple running backs. When you look at what Mike McDaniels is doing down there, he's rotating in his running backs.
Yeah,
he's not going to have, hey, Saquon Barkley, you're getting 27 carries. That's not a great fit. You know, I mean, economically and financially, you could look at the numbers, that's fine, whatever. But from a scheme standpoint, that's not their offense, and I don't think Saquon Barkley would be used the right way down there. So he's much more valuable with the Giants, and I don't think you get better as a team by getting rid of Saquon Barkley.
All right, we have time for 2 more calls, so let's get to them. Let's go to Safia first, Dominic, because he's calling all the way from India. And I'm sure that's an expensive call, so I want to get Safia on. Safia, what's going on?
You sure that's not Indianapolis?
Safia, can you hear me?
Hello?
Safia going once? Safia going
Is he gone?
twice?
Yeah.
Hi.
Oh,
Hey.
Hi.
Yeah. Hey guys. I'm a big fan of you all. Sean, I'm a big fan. Watch most of your shows over here in India. It's normally late midnight, and a great pick, I thought, because cornerback was the area we were concerned about. Great trade up, great pick, and thank you guys, and good luck for all the other rounds.
No, Safia, I appreciate the call. We have now checked the box. We've gotten South America, we've gotten South Korea, Japan.
Yeah.
First call from India. It's pretty good.
Yeah. What time is it in India right now? Is it like 7 a.m. tomorrow?
I mean, it's probably 11 or 12-hour difference, I would imagine.
Yeah,
So
they're already on day 2 in India.
Yeah, they are on day 2. You're right.
That gives new meaning to staying up late to watch the draft.
Yeah,
no, he's up early.
I'm told it's a 9-hour difference, so it's basically
9 hour. Yeah, so he's up. It's
morning
Friday
drive
morning
time in India right now. So
Yeah.
good job, Safia.
I already had breakfast.
Loyal Giants fan. We like it. All right, let's wrap it up with a first-time caller, Sean down in St. Augustine. He'll wrap us up here on our special draft night edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live. Sean, what do you got?
Hey, first-time caller, Paulie D. You're going to be having a nice power walk tonight.
Yes,
Thanks
sir.
for taking-
And thanks for your call.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, first-time caller. I was sitting there chatting in a Giant stream, and, yeah, I was just counting down. I was just like, okay, the wide receivers are gone. Banks and Porter are still there. I couldn't be happier, and I couldn't be happier that Mayer did not go to the Cowboys. Just going to say that. Yeah, I'm super excited.
Same here.
And Go Big Blue. I mean, I don't have much to say tonight other than that. Joe Shane, I trust. Let's get a center in the second round, maybe. Let's go.
Sean, good stuff. We appreciate the call. Hey, Giant fans, go download the official Giants streaming app, Giants TV. It brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. Giants TV is free on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and the Giants mobile app. Guys, before we say goodbye, let's get our final thoughts here. Sean, let's start with you. Deonte Banks, Giants got him. They have 2 picks coming up tomorrow on day 2. What are your primary goals for the Giants, and what are some of the players you think fans should keep an eye on heading into day 2 of the NFL draft, rounds 2 and 3?
Yeah, the Giants addressed one of their big needs and one of the premium positions in the NFL right now at corner. You need 3 starting corners in this league. Most teams play nickel coverage, so you have 3 corners. I think we've seen what Wake Martindale likes to do with this defense, so absolutely that's a slam dunk. I think for day 2, for the Giants, look, you can never have enough edge rushers, pass rushers, so I think defensive line is a possibility. I think interior offensive line, whether it's guard, whether it's center, I think that's somewhere that you could see them trying to strike and kind of bring in some interjection of young talent, young, healthy talent. That's really what you got to do. When you look what's going on around the division, look, the Eagles just stacked their defensive line again with Jalen Carter. So
hey, Sean,
the Giants have got to find a way to
sorry for
bring it up.
interrupting you, Sean, real quick. The Eagles just drafted Nolan Smith, so they're even more stacked.
There you go. Another pass rusher. All right, so apparently
they really need more defense.
They just drafted. I'm not joking. They just drafted Nolan Smith.
That front 7 is ridiculous.
I can't make it up.
Apparently, their mission this year is to break that sack record that they fell short of last year. They're on a mission. Nolan Smith now. So, listen, I think if you're Joe Shane right now, you got to find a way to protect your investment. Your investment being Daniel Jones. So, maybe they draft 2 offensive linemen in the next 2 rounds.
Paul? All right, I'm looking at guys tomorrow. Tippmann and Mingo are receivers I'd be looking at in the 2nd or 3rd round. Tillman, I should say, not Tippmann. Tippmann, Michael Schmitz, and Weipler are your centers. I do think in the 2nd and 3rd round, whether it goes center and receiver or receiver and center, I think there's enough fertile ground in both spots in both rounds where the Giants in their vicinity should have a shot at fulfilling both of those positions.
Yeah.
So I think need meets value.
Yeah, and I think defensive line and pass rush could be an option there too. It's a very deep class in those 2 spots in rounds 2 or 3. I think there are a number of guys that could be available at some point in rounds 2 or 3. And I'll throw a couple of the wide receiver names out there. Marvin Mims, the wide receiver out of Oklahoma, who has a lot of speed. He's someone that could be a target for the Giants. If you looked at their offseason plans and with wide receiver, they added a bunch of really fast guys. So Mims certainly fits that profile.
Smaller guys, though.
He's 5'11", though, and he has a chance. Yeah. He can play outside Mims. A.T. Perry's another bigger wide receiver that's out there. And Jalen Hyatt hasn't gotten selected yet either.
I know.
So if you really like Jalen Hyatt, could the Giants consider packaging some picks and moving up to maybe grab him? Because I imagine first 10 picks of the 2nd round or so, you would imagine he would probably jump off the board. No interior offensive lineman. Do you want to guard?
Yeah.
Steve Avila's still on the board, Sean.
Yeah,
Osiris
John.
Torrance still on the board.
Yeah, great point. Steve Avila out of TCU, look, he played a little center early on, and then he moved out to left guard his last year. Powerful dude. I mean, this guy's an in the line blocker. He's got heavy hands. Osiris Torrance from Florida. This guy didn't give up a sack in his entire career. 5 years in college, not 1 sack. So he's a heavy-handed guy. You know, there's been talk about maybe Shane Lemieux moving to center. So if you have a guard graded a little bit higher than maybe Tippmann or John Michael Schmidt or Luke Whippler, you know, maybe there's a conversation about, do we draft a guard who we have ranked a little bit higher, and then maybe move Shane Lemieux in towards center. You know, Cody Mock is another guy that I know they really like in this building. He's a stud. He played tackle at North Dakota State. He could easily move in to guard or center, but he's got some feistiness, some tenacity. So those are a couple of guys that could end up creeping up.
Yeah, that's the good news. There is some fertile ground where the Giants have some needs, and that's what makes this draft so intriguing for me, John.
Yeah, good depth on the interior offensive line, at defensive line pass rusher, and at the wide receiver position on days 2 and 3.
Even running back, which you could wait till right in round 4 if you wanted to.
Absolutely, and I think really rounds 2 and 3, you can argue, is the sweet spot of value in this draft if you can find someone to help you in those spots. Everybody, thank you for being with us on our special edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live right here on night 1 of the NFL Draft. but we will have more content for you coming up. Big Blue Kickoff Live is back tomorrow at 12:30. We'll have our normal show. Then we'll be back again tomorrow night. Same crew. Myself, Paul Dottino, Shaun O'Hara will be with you. We'll do the same deal. We'll do a half an hour after the Giants' second-round pick. We'll do a half an hour after the Giants' third-round pick. We'll get a chance to take your calls or break down everything the Giants did. And then we'll be back, just Paul and I, on day 3 on Saturday after the Giants' fifth-round pick. We will talk about what the Giants did on day 3 of the draft and wrap things up. And make sure you stay tuned to draft season as well. I mentioned that earlier. Tony Pauline and I will be recording a round 1 recap tonight, and we'll have that up early tomorrow morning. For the crew, I am John Schmeelk. Thank you for being with us on another edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live. Again, check out our coverage tomorrow. Night 1 is in the books. Deonte Banks is a member of the Giants. Plenty more talented players to come. Stay tuned to Giants.com, the Giants mobile app, and all of our social media platforms for coverage in the coming days. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you next time, everybody.